Joining me now is Anthony Scaramucci. He was White House Communications Director for Trump for a brief period of time. He is now concerned about the president's well-being. Anthony, welcome back to the program.
Last time I was in my summer casual, so.
Yeah, well, all right, good to see you in a professional.
I stayed in my business finest for you, Jay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Anthony. So you've called the president interesting names that I completely agree with: crazy, narcissistic, full-blown mental meltdown, etc. So, but I'm start out with a standard question, and we'll get a little more interesting as we go. The standard one is the one you've been getting all over media. Really, did he change? I mean, he was always a narcissist. You know, he was always a narcissist and a pathological one, pathological liar, not very intelligent to say the least, etc. So why now? What in your mind changed?
So I think it's important for you and also all of your viewers. You have to remember my position. He was my third choice. I was with Scott Walker and Jeb Bush. I was trying to be loyal to the Republican Party, and so I ended up going with President Trump. And then I was a donor that got asked to do some political advocacy for him. I ended up doing that advocacy. He offered me a job. They blocked that job. And then he offered me to come into the White House as his comms director. And I could be faulted for that. I probably let my ego get the best of me and decided to do that. And I just caution everybody out there, power is an aphrodisiac. And that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people on his staff who inimically hate his guts are not willing to come public yet. And so now I get fired abruptly. I've owned the firing. But I'm a loyal person. I'm trying to be kind, and I'm trying to take a high road with him. And he continues his descent into darkness. And so your viewers may not know this, but I think you do because you're a knowledgeable guy. I broke from the president on child separation. I broke from the president on the foreign intelligence denunciation in front of President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. I broke from the president on the press. I wrote an op-ed last April saying that the press is not the enemy of the people. And please stop calling them that, because they are the guardians of liberty in the United States. And so I've tried to stay loyal to elements of his agenda that I like, which was the advocacy for the blue collar people. But I also pointed out on many interviews that he has a mixed outcome for those people over the last 2.5 years. And so in our last interview, you and I, we were talking about the breaking point for me, and that was the full-blown racist and nativist statements that he was making about the 4 congresswomen. Now, you know I'm a Republican. I don't agree necessarily with a lot of the things that the 4 congresswomen view in terms of their policies. However, they have standing in the United States as American citizens, 3 of which were born here, 1 was naturalized. All 4 were democratically elected to our Congress. And so for the leader of the free world and the president of the United States, who's president for all people, to tell them to go back to where they came from, okay, that is full-blown racist nativism. I condemned it on your show a few weeks back, as you will recall. And that became a breaking point for me. So now, right after your show, I went on Bill Maher's show, tried to defend some of the elements of the president's agenda, and then he started attacking me and started attacking my wife. As you know, he attacked Ted Cruz's wife and others. So you can say to me, okay, what took me so long? That's fine. But you can't break from a guy after you're abruptly fired. And I gave 2 years. I gave the guy a chance, and I tried to lobby on his behalf. But you can agree with me or disagree with me. I can prove to you over the last 3 weeks that there is something definitively wrong with him now. He is melting down. Evidence today, he's doctoring, which is actually a felony, a weather forecast. 2 weeks ago, he's saying that Jerome Powell and President Xi of China, who is the bigger enemy of the people? Last night, he attacked the Federal Reserve on his Twitter feed and one of the more august law and order institutions ever created in mankind, the FBI. And so he is trying to demolish the cornerstone and pillar elements of the executive branch of the United States government. He's got all acting people because he's creating this inimical revolving door around him. So I couldn't take it anymore. I said, okay, enough is enough. And if you're saying to me that I am wrong for having to support him, and you're saying that I made a mistake, I accept that, Cenk. I own that as a human being. And I wrote in the Washington Post, I'm cautioning my fellow Americans, please create an off-ramp for people that now know that they've made a mistake. And due to loyalty biases, confirmed biases, cognitive dissonance, they're having a hard time breaking from this madman. And so, again, if you want to criticize me and tell me I should have did it sooner, Cenk, I own all that. I accept the responsibility for that. But we can't allow this to go on any longer and have him have another 4 years in the White House.
So, Anthony,
go ahead. I'm sorry. That's my narrative.
Yeah, I understand that. So, but Anthony, that leads to two logical questions. One is you say all this about Trump, and I agree wholeheartedly, and would go even further. But yet the entire Republican Party holds. So when all the Republican politicians in the House and in the Senate still back Donald Trump, aren't they equally responsible for all the things that he's doing?
Oh no, I believe that. They're creating a Pottery Barn-like situation in the United States. Remember what Colin Powell said to George W. Bush, don't invade Iraq. If you break it, you're going to end up owning it. The Republicans, in order to hold power, are now breaking the system. Okay, they are now challenged to be working for, supporting, and endorsing a full-on demagogue. And just use me as an example. If I agreed with 8 out of 10 things or 9 out of 12 things, that's not enough for Donald Trump. You have to agree with 13 out of 12 things to be in his good graces. And that's why you see all of this aggressive play acting on television. And so I'm just telling you, and I've talked to many people on the Hill, many people inside the administration, lots of former administration officials. If you don't come out and admit the truth, and remember, we're 1 year from the anonymous letter that was posted in the New York Times. That was posted effectively a year ago this week. And, I don't like that letter for a number of reasons, because I think it's an act of cowardice not to speak directly and candidly and put your name on it. But there are many people inside that administration that feel there's something seriously wrong. And just for the aphrodisiac of power, or to hold on to power, not to admit it, I think this is going to create a potential tragedy for the United States.
So now that brings us to the second part of that logical question. Well, now why don't the Republican politicians break with him? So one part is inside the administration, power and fame and wealth, etc. But inside of Congress, they're scared. They're not scared that Trump is going to yell at them on Twitter. They're scared that their voters are going to throw them out. They're going to get primaried. What's happening to Justin Amash now? So aren't the people who are primarily culpable here the actual Republican voters that have seen all of the madness of Donald Trump and still love him?
Well, I mean, I think that's true, but I think if you're a statesman and you're going to put your country ahead of your political leanings or even your power base. I mean, somebody asked me, well, I'm doing this for publicity. I'm not doing this for publicity. I need this sort of publicity like a hole in my head. I could just go back to running my business and stay out of public life. I was doing great before I entered this nightmare. I don't need that. I love my country, and it's a matter of patriotism now over partisanship. And so you got to applaud people like Justin. There will be more people. But, look at Senator Graham. He denounced the president. This is the cycle with Trump. He denounced him. The guy wins. You're trying to figure out a way to like him. And now Senator Graham's approval rating in South Carolina has gone up, and he wants to stay in power. But down deep, he's got to know that there's something seriously rotten and seriously wrong with the president. So as it relates to the voters, I have a different take on the voters, Cenk. The voters are passionate, middle-class and blue-collar people that feel that they have not had an advocate in Washington in 3 or 4 decades. And so they're clinging to the president because he is their avatar of anger. He is the one that's smashing into the system, and it's a system that they feel has not been fair to them for 3 decades. And you can agree with that or disagree with that. I was on 26 campaign stops with candidate Trump, and I saw the economic anxiety in the system and the economic angst and desperation. And I'll point out, many of those same people were also seen at Bernie Sanders rallies. There were only two candidates in 2016 that actually saw that angst. Okay, that was Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. And so they had different policy proposals to fix that problem. But that's the truth about it. And that's why they're clinging to him almost in a cult-like way. And that's why they're willing to curve their personalities or have a reality distortion field around all the lies and all this other stuff, because they feel that they don't have anybody that's speaking to them with a voice where they think they can be helped.
So I think that that's at least half true, and establishment Democrats still don't understand that, and they push people like Biden at their peril that just say, "Oh no, don't worry, donors, we're going to keep everything just the same," and it's a disastrous course. But there's a giant difference between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders actually means it, and of course Trump doesn't. And so you talk about blue collar voters, he hasn't done anything for them, and. Instead,
okay, but what was half true though? You said that what I was saying was half true. So what's the false part?
The other reason why the Republican voters, so half the reason is because I like what you said, an avatar of anger. That's totally true, and they're right to be pissed at the establishment, both Republicans and Democrats. But the other half of the equation is they don't like Latinos, blacks, Muslims, etc. So when he attacks Ilhan Omar, they love it. They chant, "Send her back," etc. So you're leaving that part out because it's inconvenient.
Well, all right. Well, no, I'm not leaving that part out. Let's address that. I found that to be absolutely disgusting. And on your show, the last time that you invited me on, I said that was full on racism.
No, Anthony, I know you did. I know you did. I'm not. No. Look, I want to be clear. And you said it earlier. And you're right.
I'm not ignoring that, though.
No, you're not ignoring Trump saying it. But what a lot of the folks are ignoring is that the Republican voters love that. They didn't pick Trump despite that. They picked Trump because of that.
Well, I accept that, and I would add something to it. I would say that he has created a license to expel that anger and a license to create that hate. We also have a full-on terrorist situation going on in the United States. It just happens to be domestic terrorism, where people the mass shootings are up exponentially as a result of this racial divide and the full-on expression of anger. And so the president has used the bully pulpit to do a lot of bullying, and he's also used it as a channel of ventilation for people to have a full-on license to do these sort of very nasty and very violent things. And so, again, you asked me what the red line was for me, what was the point of breaking from him, and that got to the point where it's like, this is totally unacceptable. And as I pointed out to others, the first name of the country is United, okay, and we can't have the leader of the free world and the leader of this great country being this disunifying. It is a despicable thing. And we have to speak out against it. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, we now have a clear and present danger to the society. So whether we like each other or you don't like me because I supported Trump, or you like this or you don't like that, we got to get it together, and we have to work very, very hard to defeat him.
Yep. Well, we totally agree on that. We're out of time, but Anthony, don't worry. You're going to get a lot of cavalry behind you in the Republican Party once the economy crashes. I don't want it to, but I think it's going to.
Well, I don't want it to either, but that's exactly what will happen. As soon as his poll numbers start dropping, and I want to predict this again on your show because I've said it a few other times, he's dropping out of the race. Okay, as soon as that economy cracks a little and his poll numbers slip into the low 30s, high 20s, he's not going to stay in that race. And so you're going to have to get another competitive Republican to run against whoever the Democrats are putting up.
Anthony, you and I think might literally be the only two people in the country saying that on air. I totally agree. He's a coward. He's going to run. He doesn't want to get humiliated.
100%. Hey, he hasn't come after me once on Twitter since the first attack, because the guy. He attacked me 3 times over a 3-day period of time. Now he stopped. because I'm not a politician, Cenk. I know how to handle myself. No problem, okay? You want to come after me, you're like a rich kid from Manhattan, okay? I grew up, reasonably poor on Long Island. I have no problem taking this guy intellectually or on a number of different multiple layers. And so we'll work on it together. And whether you like Republicans or dislike Republicans, we got to get it together to defeat this man.
All right, Anthony Scaramucci, thank you for joining us on the Young Turks.
Good to be on, man.
If you liked this interview and you're at the end, so apparently you liked it a little bit, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. You can watch them live as they happen if you're a member. Only members get that. Go to tytnetwork.com/join, and you get not only interviews live, you get the Young Turks live, you get Aggressive Progressive live, Old School, and all of it commercial free. Come join us right now, tytnetwork.com/join.